Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here online tonight for a virtual conversation about the upcoming season at the Hilton Performing Arts Center. My name is Rick Davis, and I'm the Executive Director of the Hilton Performing Arts Center, and I also have the pleasure of serving as Dean of the College of Visual and Performing Arts at George Mason University, which is the operator of the Hilton Center on behalf of the partners that brought it into being and that continue to be our reason for existence. George Mason University, the Commonwealth of Virginia, of course, and the city of Manassas, and Prince William County, Virginia. It's a 10-year partnership, actually a 20-year partnership. We've been in operation for 10 years, about to celebrate our 10th anniversary season. And it's been a really wonderful journey to creating a home for artistic excellence in Manassas and in Prince William County. And we're here tonight to talk to you about the major calamities, really, and issues and opportunities that have arisen over the last few months and that have caused us to make some very difficult decisions, many of which you already know about, but also to look forward, in a very positive way about some of the things that are coming up. I want to say that for accessibility purposes, I'd like to introduce myself visually. I'm a white man with a gray beard. I'm wearing a George Mason University Mason yellow baseball cap and a blue and white striped shirt. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And I'm sitting in my home office surrounded by books and pictures and desks, and maybe if we're lucky, a dog will make an appearance as well. If you should need or wish access to a closed captioning service tonight, it's available on Facebook only. So if you're watching on YouTube, if you could navigate over to Facebook for the closed captioning. If you're watching on Facebook, please find the gear icon at the bottom right of your video screen for the settings switch and toggle the captions button to on. And if you're watching on YouTube and don't want to navigate over, we'll provide a link to the Facebook event. And if you don't have a Facebook account, no problem. You'll still be able to view the conversation. A little bit later, after I make a couple of opening remarks, we'll be joined by Adrian Bryant Godwin, our wonderful Director of Programming for the College of Visual and Performing Arts, who is responsible for the presented work at the Hilton. That's Hilton Presents, Hilton Family Series, Matinee Idols, American Roots, and other presented programming and Hilton Center Extra that we do every year. So the first thing we like to address tonight is the closure of the arts venues nationwide, even worldwide, that started to happen in mid-March of this year, and that has seemingly accelerated. You may have noticed the news yesterday out of the Kennedy Center. They took a long time to announce it, but they now have canceled their fall 2020 programming as well, or the vast majority of it. Most of the major venues around us and indeed nationwide have taken that step. Each one of these decisions is exceedingly difficult to make, and I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about why we did it and what we hope to accomplish in the intervening time period. We also want to acknowledge that in the middle of this pandemic of coronavirus, COVID-19, the United States of America has been gripped by the recognition of another pandemic, the pandemic of anti-Black racism, which came to the fore so profoundly in the last month or so, with death after death, and then protest after protest, and then statement after statement, and then a gathering consensus in the country, but very much so in the arts community, which is what the point of view that we're speaking from, that we need to do a better job as arts institutions and as higher education institutions in confronting the tradition of what is often called institutional racism that is endemic in some of our institutions, many of our institutions, and really frankly acknowledge and try to do better in terms of the way we structure our activities, our programs, the way we populate our centers, and on the academic side of the house, our classes, our faculties, our staffs. This is a major challenge, but also a major opportunity for us going forward. And the fact that these two things have come together, which initially seemed so daunting, a lot of us in the arts and in higher education are trying to find a way to optimize the confluence, if you will, of these two really, really difficult challenges, and actually take some time and think deeply together with our communities about how to make progress and how to actually get better on all fronts. So back to the coronavirus situation for a moment. The issue of presenting live performance during a pandemic of this seriousness is, of course, spreading the contagion. And you've all seen the guidelines about wearing masks and keeping physical or social distance. When those started to come out, we knew that we had to take action and cancel our spring and summer seasons. The decision to cancel the fall, which we made a while ago and announced a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2.5 weeks ago now, was taken in consultation with the university's Department of Environmental Health and Safety. And also, of course, we are also in frequent communication with the state Department of Health and with local health authorities. We also have I guess if an advantage is the right word, we are part of George Mason University, which is a major research university with scientific expertise at our fingertips. You might be interested in knowing that right here on the Science and Technology campus where the Hylton Center lives, a couple of our very finest scientists who had been doing pioneering work in cancer and in Lyme disease are doing very up-to-the-minute pioneering work on diagnostics for COVID-19 and antibody testing. So we're right at the heartbeat of this international effort. It became clear to us as May turned into June that it was not going to be possible to present professional performances in those series that I named in ways that were financially, artistically, and perhaps most importantly, from a sort of safety and comfort level, satisfactory experiences. If you think about how an audience would have to be spaced out very sparsely in whatever theater we might be in, whether it's Merchant Hall or the Gregory Family Theater or in the new education wing. When you think about, and this is something maybe you don't think about initially, on stage, performers have to be safe also. And the idea of how do you take a performance which was rehearsed and conceived one way and perform it with either very many fewer people or produced about the performing arts is that on stage, we do some of the most dangerous things it's possible to do from a COVID-19 standpoint. It turns out that singing, dancing, and acting are three of the most dangerous activities you can possibly do because of the principle of what's called super spreading. If you're breathing deeply, if you're putting out a lot of sound and air, and if you're exercising, if you're carrying the virus, you are then also spreading it in a way that's really quite dangerous for the people around you, even those people who are keeping a normalized social distance. So all of that together, and some of the complexities of the touring professional marketplace that Adrian will talk about in a moment, led us to make the, again, very difficult decision to shut down for the fall season. Now, the Hylton Center isn't just a presenting house. One of the glories of our existence, in fact, the majority of our work involves working with our arts partners and arts affiliates and other community organizations, and our venues are busy. Probably 2/3 of our schedule in a given year is work of our community partners, which range from fully professional operations to all volunteer small operations and everything in between. And it's one of the key reasons that we exist as a theater. So the same considerations of safety, comfort, and aesthetic satisfaction apply to their work as well. However, we also are very respectful of what our partners want to do and would like to attempt. So as it becomes possible to think about coming back into the theaters and rehearsal halls in some way, we are engaging in that conversation regularly. But as of now, it's still kind of a dicey situation. We'll get into some specifics later if you all want to. Speaking of getting into specifics, I want to invite comments and questions on the in the comments section on our live stream, and we have folks sort of backstage, not in my living room back there, but actually electronically backstage, who are monitoring those chats and will feed comments to us a little bit later in the program. So that's what we're doing on the pandemic side right now. I'm going to turn it over to Adrienne Bryant Godwin for her take as the director of programming on some of the artistic implications of this moment on both fronts, both crises, and also really starting to look forward, because with all that's been going on, there's a lot of exciting opportunities ahead of us, and she will bring us up to speed on some of those. Adrienne.
Thank you so much, Rick. I will start by introducing myself. I am a white female with long red hair. I am wearing a navy shirt and a tan cardigan with a turquoise necklace, and I'm speaking to you from my home office. And it is so nice to see you, quote unquote, to be here with you in this digital space. We certainly miss being in the theater together, and it's not the same, but it will just have to do for now. And we do appreciate you taking the time to engage with us tonight. So as Rick mentioned, I have the great honor of serving as the director of programming for the Hilton. And he mentioned that the series that I curate, the Hilton Presents Family Series, American Roots, Matinee Idols, Hilton Extra, these are really just a fraction of the amazing arts programming that's presented on our stages. And I know that some of you tonight might have been to the Hilton to see performances by our wonderful members of the Hylton Center Arts Alliance. Those are arts partners and our affiliate arts organizations. Perhaps you've come to see an exhibit in the Buchanan Partners Art Gallery, or attended a lecture through the Lifelong Learning Institute. So I did just want to make sure to clarify that as we're discussing tonight, as we're sharing news, I certainly can't speak for the programming plans for all of these other wonderful organizations. And so I do encourage you to reach out to them and check in with them directly to find out what they've got in store for the fall. And so I'll start off by saying that, unfortunately, I am not able to share with you our exact programming plan for the fall because I'm not 100% sure what it will be. But I will tell you that we are exploring a wide range of options. And as soon as we have concrete information, we will absolutely be sharing that with you. As you can imagine, with the public health situation changing on a daily basis, it makes planning a cohesive fall season quite challenging, particularly as we're having to work with each of the artists that we were supposed to be presenting and pay attention to their needs, both in terms of their comfort level with traveling and with performing, and also the requirements for each of their works that they were going to present, whether that is the type of performance and the health implications involved in the actual activity on stage, or how many members are on stage. So it's quite complex, and my colleagues and I have spent the past few months in seemingly endless industry conference calls and webinars. And as a sector, we're all trying to figure out the best way to make it through this pandemic, while still ensuring that our artistic ecosystem is still healthy when we make it to the end of this. And we will make it there. And I want to be very frank about the state of the performing arts ecosystem. It's very precarious right now. It's obviously not just venues that have lost their ticket revenue, but the artists. The reason why we all come to the theater together. Many artists haven't been paid for a few months, and they don't know when their next paycheck is going to arrive, and it might be 2021 before that happens. And that's not just artists that it's affecting, of course. It's all of the supporting staff that work with them. It's production crew and box office and agents and designers. Many of these individuals are freelancers, and they may not have employer-sponsored health care. It's a challenging situation, and I spent a lot of time talking to agents and to the artists that were supposed to be featured on our season this fall. And we're trying to come up with a plan that allows us to continue to support them and provide opportunities to you, our patrons, our community, in the face of these extreme uncertainties that we're all facing. So this spring, our response to all of this was the creation of Mason Arts at Home, which is a digital initiative that serves as a platform for professional and student artists to be able to continue sharing their work with you. And initially, we offered 6 weeks of programming, which was all free for our audiences. And we're excited to continue this initiative for the foreseeable future. And this summer, we'll be featuring members of the Hylton Center's Arts Alliance, and I hope that you'll tune in for some of those great events. That program is evolving over the summer. We have a couple that are already up and on our website, so please do tune in for that. But as we look to the fall, our goal is to create a series of arts experiences that will be accessible to all of our patrons who have varying levels of comfort in terms of taking the next steps of returning to a concert experience. We are paying very close attention to data that we collected from a variety of different surveys that we administered to our audiences. And this has given us a better understanding of how you're envisioning you will be participating in the arts moving forward. So thank you to those of you who have taken the time to respond to those surveys. They've been very helpful. So we've been spending the past couple of months completely reimagining what a performing arts series can look like without the use of our traditional performance venues. It has been challenging, but also energizing. We are recreating the wheel, and it's been particularly incredible to see the brave and innovative ways that artists have embraced this current climate, and how the industry is adapting and will probably continue to adapt for a long time. So I anticipate that the fall will include a mix of outdoor performances. Of course, we'll be following all university and state protocols for safety and physical distancing. These will take place probably in the months of September and October when the weather is still nice. We're also looking at site opportunities, ways that we can bring artists off campus and directly into our community. And of course, we're looking at digital content and live stream performances, some of which will be free and some of which will likely be ticketed with what we call a paywall. And Mason Arts at Home will continue to be the go-to place for all of our digital content. And we'll be adjusting the program a little bit, but it will continue to offer a diverse mix of arts-related content, including discussions, behind-the-scenes footage, streamed performances. And for those of you that are familiar with our educational programming, our education coordinator is putting together a really wonderful series of digital events, which will serve our local schools and also provide professional development for education professionals. So as we're making these plans, we are not forgetting our loyal donors and subscribers, and we're working to ensure that you will have special opportunities associated with each of these performances, which reflect our sincere appreciation to you for your support. And on that note, I want to take a moment to thank each and every individual who has continued to support the Hilton over the past few months. In times like these, with so much uncertainty, and particularly as we're having to experiment with new models for programming, philanthropic support is truly needed now more than ever. And when we return to the theater, we will be able to do so only because of those donors. So thank you. The 2020-2021 season, as Rick mentioned, is the Hilton's 10th anniversary season. And you probably won't ever actually see the exciting programs that we spent years putting together. But I do want you to know that we are doing our best to find a way to celebrate these past 10 years and to continue to serve our mission of presenting performances and programs of the highest quality and artistic excellence to inspire, educate, enrich, and enhance our community. And now I wanted to speak briefly in supporting Rick's words earlier about racial justice. And I think the arts play an important role as they serve as a reflection of our society, both what we're proud of and also what might be painful to admit or remember. And in that sense, artists serve as our historians and truth tellers, our provocateurs, and quite often our moral compass. And as a performing arts center with such deep ties to our local community, we have to acknowledge the power that we have to shape the cultural landscape of this region. And particularly as we are connected to an educational institution, it is absolutely our responsibility to elevate the voices of Black artists, Indigenous artists, artists of color, and support them by providing a platform to spark conversation within our communities, which artists are so great at doing. So from a programmatic perspective, there's a lot of work to be done. Prince William County is beautifully diverse, and the Hilton should reflect that. And this applies not only to what artists appear on our stages, but as Rick mentioned, there's a need for rigorous analysis of ourselves as an institution to ensure that we are not just passively promoting diversity, but that we are actively anti-racist. So though racial justice has been a part of the fabric of our country for hundreds of years, and while we may only play a small part in its dismantling, we owe it to our community, our neighbors, our artists, to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to foster an environment where artists and audiences of color feel supported, welcomed, and heard. So this work will take time, and it might not be immediately apparent, but we want you to know that we're doing the work and we take it very seriously. And so with that, Rick, do you want to come back on and maybe we'll answer a few questions?
Thank you, Adrienne, for that eloquent series of great remarks. I'll just underscore a couple of things. Under the overall umbrella or mantle of opportunities to learn, one of the reasons we go, I think, to a performance or go to an art exhibition is to, in the words of a famous old literary agent that I knew named Helen Merrill, she said, "All I want from an arts experience is to tell me something I don't already know, or to give an experience that I couldn't get some other way." And that's always been the business of the performing and visual arts. And when it's fully embraced, it's the most exciting business to be in. That's why we're all in it, I think. Another catchphrase that we use all the time, some of you've probably heard me say it so often that you're sick of it, but it's short, so I'll do it anyway. And that is, the arts create community. That's our motto. That's our mission. We really do think about that every single day. And what a wonderful time to think about community in a larger, deeper, broader, more complex way. And I'm talking now about both of our themes tonight. I'm talking about the racial justice theme. I'm talking about the diversity, equity, and inclusion theme, because that is all about community. It's about defining community richly, broadly, openly. But it's also about this weird pandemic moment, because one of the funny, ironic things that we've experienced is that we know we are reaching more and different people electronically than we have often done in presenting our live performances in exhibitions. And that's just an interesting fact. We have put on some of our Mason Arts at Home content and gotten literally thousands of people engaged with it. And I don't just mean passing through on their Facebook feed. I mean, we can tell when people are doing that. We don't know who you are, but we get a clicker, right? But we know how long you spend. I don't mean you personally, but we know how long one spends on a site. And we added it up at the end of May, and we had something like 81 continuous days worth of engagement with Mason Arts at Home by literally thousands, tens of thousands, when you add it all up, of people. So that's kind of cool. So how do we learn from that? And how do we say that's a community that we haven't characteristically always been reaching? How do we bring parts of that community into this other community? And how do we make a larger, deeper, richer community out of the whole thing? And how do we add value to the live experience by creating digital content that may surround it or contextualize it or offer preparation for it or offer an opportunity to comment on it later on? So there's just lots of excitement in this moment if we take it as an opportunity to learn and grow. We have questions coming in, and one of them actually was given to us yesterday. Somebody took advantage of our offer to submit questions in advance, and here is a thoughtful one that came in yesterday. Now that Virginia is entering phase 3 and we'll be back to normal soon, well, we'll talk about what does that mean? But the question is, Virginia entering phase 3, will be back to normal soon. Will you consider reopening before the end of the year? And the answer is a qualified yes, but it's a highly qualified yes. We are monitoring the situation, obviously, on a daily basis. We've studied the phase 3 guidelines. They are somewhat more permissive in terms of size of gathering or percentage of capacity, but they still have, as they should, the safety distancing guidelines firmly in place. And we have modeled, actually, on pen and paper or on digital screens, or sometimes physically with people standing with tape measures, we have modeled our theaters and our lobbies in terms of what would be necessary to maintain proper social distancing and safety in sort of number of people per square foot in a room. And it's still tough. Phase 3 is tough. It doesn't quite work. When that is finally lifted, we then have to do our own thinking, our own independent thinking in consultation with the university and the state about the unique characteristics of performing arts activity that I was alluding to earlier. And we'll have to see if the audience might be perfectly safe in a reduced capacity auditorium, but what happens with the performers, and what happens with the stage crew that's right next to the performers, and what happens in the dressing rooms and the backstage hallways? All of these things we have been thinking about and are thinking about. So when I say it's a qualified yes, we're looking at it all the time. Every time there's a new study, every time there's a new data point, we take it in and say, how does that affect us? Adrian mentioned surveys that we have been participating in. Some of them we've conducted ourselves. Some were part of a national data bank of surveys, and our audience is contributing to that. And audience members have consistently said, in really significantly majority numbers, that most of us won't feel completely comfortable going back to a theater until there's either a vaccine or a treatment that is effective. Or unless the virus just somehow goes away. That is sobering, because that's not on the immediate horizon, although we're all hopeful that there's some good news coming out about some possibilities. But that's what the national and our own audience is telling us. We also, and we don't have any control over that process, of course. What we do have control over, though, we are trying to work on, which audiences have also told us through these surveys. They want to make sure that proper precautions are taken. If that means masks, then we have to make sure that people are wearing masks. If it means touchless, contactless ticket interactions, both at the ticket office and at the usher stand as you're going into the theater, we know how to do that. We have ways of doing that. We have to buy some new equipment, but we're in the process of investigating that. If it means more frequent cleaning of surfaces, absolutely. If it means turning up the air conditioning, I don't mean the temperature, but I mean, because if you've been to the Hilton Center often, you know that sometimes it's too hot, sometimes it's too cold. The good news is right now, this very last couple of weeks, the air conditioning system has been being worked on, and it's actually being renovated, and it's very exciting because I think when we all come back, it's going to be quieter and smoother and better regulated. But it turns out that HVAC, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, has a profound impact on the safety of an indoor venue during this crisis, because the number of times that the air is exchanged in a given time period reduces the virus load, if there is any virus in the air, and the percentage of fresh air that mixes in to the environmental air can be increased. And the university is committed to doing that throughout all of its campus buildings. So that's pretty exciting. So we're taking the precautions that we know about. We're always on the hunt for new ones, and to make sure that you feel comfortable, that we feel comfortable, that artists feel comfortable, and that safety is not an illusion, but as close to a reality as we can achieve. So, Adrian, anything to add to that from the standpoint of audience
Sure.
experience?
Yeah, well, I'll actually speak to the artist experience, because, we talk about that we've heard that many audience members won't feel comfortable coming back until there's a vaccine or treatment. But I've also heard that from the artist side. Of course, not all artists feel that way, but for many, they have expressed concern about their own safety, and not wanting to be put in a situation where where they are not safe before they're ready. So it's definitely something that, again, we're working with each agent and each artist to determine their comfort level. And so this is why I think, once we can have audiences attend, we will not immediately be able to start having programming as part of the series, at least that I curate, because these artists are coming from across the nation, sometimes across the world. And there's a lot that has to happen before they are going to be able to tour again. First of all, people haven't been rehearsing in ensembles. And of course, especially for dance and theater performances, you need to be in a room with your fellow performers in order to prepare. And that can't necessarily happen quickly. And rehearsing over Zoom is only so effective, I think, as many people have discovered. And of course, the touring industry, the tours, it takes a long time to put a tour together that is going to be financially feasible for the artist. They incur incredible expenses when they go on tour. And so that it has to be booked in such a way that they are actually going to, make a profit, or at least break even. I think another issue that we're facing now is problems with visas and our borders, which aren't necessarily open, and we don't know when they will be for certain countries. So I had some artists that actually canceled their performances for the fall before we even did, because they were nervous about those particular concerns. So it's an interesting, complex puzzle, but it will, it's just going to take a little bit of time to ramp back up, I think, once people feel safe being together again in the theater.
Yeah, that's an important point about the. I think the term you used earlier, the arts ecology. It's an interconnected web of producers, presenters, artists, touring companies, managers, and all of them. If you pull one thread out, very often a whole single fabric collapses. Another question has just come in off of Facebook. It's a really good one. Is there a possibility of extending the closure beyond January, or do you feel confident about opening then? Okay, so the answer to both questions is yes. Quite frankly, there is a possibility. We have to wait and see what this virus does. As Dr. Fauci has said, and I can't quote him exactly, but the virus will it'll tell us when it's ready to go. It's kind of in charge of its own destiny. That's not to say that we shouldn't do everything we possibly can to control it and fight it, but these things are unpredictable. So yes, there's a possibility. Are we confident? We're pretty confident. We're hopeful for sure, and I would say confidence is on the horizon. But at this point, we have a pretty good plan that's evolving for the spring, and we would love to be open both for our local and regional partners and for the number. I mean, Adrian has done an amazing job, if I may embarrass you on screen here, of finding ways to reschedule artists that we had to cancel from last spring and this fall into next spring and next year for two really big reasons, both of which are important. One is we booked them in the first place, and we want to share them with you, right? There's an artistic imperative behind that. But two, and this is that ecosystem thing again, we feel that we're partly responsible in our limited but important capacity for the health of the American arts scene. And if we simply cancel an artist and say, we'll see you in a few years, that is a ripple in a pond that might end up really rocking a boat. Does that metaphor hold together? I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, so we really wanted to make sure that we could, even if the engagement had to be delayed, that we could keep that promise. So it is with great hope and some confidence, but also real wariness that we study the season coming up. As we did in March and as we did in June, we will try to make the promptest and clearest decision possible and stay in touch with everybody in the community about that. There's another question here, which I'll just go right to because it's another good one. This is about our education wing. If you haven't yet been to our new education rehearsal wing that just opened last winter, it is 17,000 square feet of beautiful rehearsal space and teaching space and studio space at the Hylton Center. And there are spaces there that are used for rehearsal and performance, and also for meetings and classes and things like that. Could small meetings, rental events take place in the new education wing if social distancing rules are followed? The answer is yes. Again, we would have to make sure that all the protocols were in place, but the Hylton Center is essentially open, it's not open right now, but it will be open as soon as the university gives us a go-ahead. Right now, they're folks in doing maintenance and working on the HVAC and things like that. But there is certainly the intention and the hope that we can support properly scaled, safely managed events. And I think we're really looking forward to welcoming folks back in. It's going to be different. It's going to be a little weird, frankly, to have a situation where everybody's wearing a mask and distances are pretty strictly enforced because it's really important. And events are going to be different for a while, but we really want to get back into business. So yes, thank you for that question. Adrienne,
Rick,
can you talk a little bit about the live streaming idea that you mentioned it once, but to me, this is one of the most exciting things that we are exploring is the provision of, which will actually be permanent now, equipment to live stream and essentially televise performances.
Absolutely. So I think that we've all we were pushed very quickly into this digital realm, whether we liked it or not, this spring. And one of the, I think, wonderful outcomes of that is that our staff has fully embraced this idea of being able to capitalize on the movement to have digital content, but knowing that we wanted to produce very high quality content. It's wonderful to have streams from someone's bedroom, and that has served a place and will probably continue to serve a place for some time. But we knew that this would go on for some time, and we wanted to be able to have the flexibility by purchasing live streaming equipment to, once we can have artists in our space, be able to have performances that we feel really good about the quality of them. And so, yes, so we're investing in this equipment, and I think this will be an incredible resource for our community, for not only performances, but for rental events. And it's really exciting. And I think, the question about next spring, of course, it's something that we're thinking a lot about, whether or not we're going to be able to be in the theater. And as Rick mentioned, we are eternally hopeful that will happen. If it is the case that we can be in the theater, but we have to have less audience members because of physical distancing rules, I think that live streaming could potentially play a really great role in those that aren't comfortable coming yet back to the theater, or those that might not actually live in the area, still being able to have access to these performances, which I think we will see the model change. I'm hearing a lot of other presenters talking about this, offering both. You can come, you can see this in person, or you can buy probably a lower price ticket and then just see the digital stream. So it's really, really exciting, and I'm very happy that we're going to be able to make use of it and to offer it to the community as well.
And if you're watching the digital stream at home, you can be barefoot like I am right now.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Another couple more questions that we want to get to before we wrap it up. But another important part of the Hylton Center's programming and offerings, Adrian alluded to the education programming that has become such a strong part. Tens of thousands of students served by that outreach and bringing students into the Hylton Center. But many of you are also familiar with our Veterans in the Arts initiative, which started at the Hylton Center about 5 years ago and has, I think the latest number I saw for total impact was something like 7,500 veterans, service members, and their families who have participated in programming of one kind or another, education workshops, poetry, music, painting, photography, all kinds of marvelous activities. And then, of course, including our wonderful Veterans Day celebration every year. One of the cool things about this difficult moment in March was how quickly the Veterans and the Arts Initiative program made the turn and went online. And our wonderful guitar and ukulele instructor, Glenn McCarthy, immediately developed a way of teaching his beautiful workshops and actually, again, started to get more audience and from places far flung, actually, participating in these beautiful workshops. And the email and commentary that we've gotten from that experience has been so moving and so affirming. And I just wanted to make sure that people are aware that key aspect of the Hylton Center's programming has also gone on, has also made the shift into the digital realm, and will continue to do that. There's a technical question here about refunds. And while I am not 100% conversant in the language of the ticket office, I'm about 98% conversant. And my understanding is that the previous season, the 1920 season, those refunds have been substantially completed, and there might be a couple of folks who paid by check or something that are still waiting. But the normal procedure is when a performance is canceled, you are able to exchange into, if the performance is rescheduled, into that performance or into another performance, or have a credit on your account, or donate the money, which we love, back to us, or get a refund. So all of those things are available. And if anybody has a specific issue or question with a refund, please feel free to reach out to the ticket office, hyltoncenter.org. You can find a contact there. And of course, feel free to reach out to me as well, Rick Davis, and I'm always happy to take a look.
And I will just add, Rick, that I believe that our colleagues have put links in the comment section to more information on the box office and the procedures that they're going through right now and the status of things. So if they haven't already, they will be soon. So you can find more information there.
So another really cool question came in from a member of the Copper Circle, which is our highest level sort of donor society, and really our mainstay supporters who we love seeing in the theater throughout the season, but especially in the fall where we have the Copper Circle dinner and a headliner performance. Well, we're not going to be able to do that this September, of course. So the question is, if I'm a Copper Circle member, how is my support helping, even though I'm not getting to come into the space right now for events? Adrian alluded to this earlier, but I just want to underscore it. We're not putting stuff on stage right now, but we're working harder than ever behind the scenes to, first of all, be ready to come back with amazing programming, some of which is a backlog from the past, but much of which is new and responsive to these new currents in our lives. The second thing is, I mean, on a purely business basis, we're not selling any tickets. And although we have the great blessing of being part of George Mason University, so we are, I mean, I can sit here and say we're not going to turn the lights off and go home. We have that institutional commitment. We still have to run in a business-like fashion. And at times when ticket sales are either depressed or, as they are now, absent, philanthropy is the only income that we have. We're also, if you know the Hylton Center well, you know that we also depend and partner with the community on rentals for a large part of our business. And those are gone as well. So being very honest here, I mean, there's no money coming in from those two sort of what we call earned income streams. So philanthropy, large and small, is keeping us going and keeping things like the Veterans in the Arts Initiative going, keeping things like our education programming going online, letting us make these plans that we're talking about. So it's never more important.
Rick, can I actually add on to that?
Please do.
First of all, I'll say that we are having some very creative conversations about, as I mentioned, ways to make sure that we're continuing to offer some really unique experiences for our donors. So please stay tuned for more information on that. But you mentioned that working harder than ever, and I just wanted to kind of highlight that as we are reinventing the wheel, as we are trying to think of these new ways to continue to engage with our communities, it takes an incredible amount of time to figure out how to pivot and try these new programmatic models. I mean, I mentioned that we're thinking about doing outdoor concerts. That could have a variety of different looks, right? Whether it's a drive-in concert, whether we're seating patrons on the hill behind the theater, the intricacies that go into like all of the details that you might not think about. How do we get sound? Do we do it through the radio? Do we do it to speakers? How are we planning for handling audience member? I mean, it's amazing the ripple effects of we're very good at presenting in theaters, and we want to be really good at presenting in these other models as well. And so it is the amount of research that the staff have had to do to put these on at the level that I think that our audience expects. There is a lot of work happening behind the scenes right now. So I just wanted to add that. And also I just wanted to take this moment to say the Hilton staff is incredible. I mean, they are just the best humans to work with. And it's been a hard time, and they have come with creativity and tenacity and an open heart, and every day they're talking about how can we be there for the community, and it's been really inspiring. So we're both very lucky to have them as colleagues.
Yeah, those are good words, and I just want to echo it. It's this is a group of staff members, many of whom have been with the Hilton for a long, long time, who know this community well, who know how deeply embedded the center and the resident arts groups and the work of the professionals, how all of that builds and meshes together to create this ecosystem, and we're chomping at the bit to get back to doing that work, because it is truly what we live for. Um, I think we'll probably wrap it up here in just a minute, but I would like to just offer a couple of final thoughts. Repeat a couple things and then turn it over to Adrian for a final benediction. One of the things I want to repeat and underscore is this idea that this period of time from March till now, where we've confronted these waves of upheaval, there's no doubt about it that it's been difficult for all of us, all of you watching, all of us on this side of the lens, and our colleagues. But out of these times comes enormous opportunity, and you find yourself engaged in new ways. You find yourself thrown off of your typical rhythms. You find yourself looking at new things, reading new things, thinking new thoughts. And it's out of those moments, historically, for thousands of years, that great art has arisen. And just keeping it in the channel of the arts for the moment, I know as a student of the history of the arts that the outpourings of genius in artistic life cycles have often come out of moments like this, where people are thrown back a little bit on their heels and are forced to confront new realities with new visions. And so I believe we're in that moment now. And I believe it's true of institutions as well as individual artists. And I hope it's true of higher education as well, because working together, we can actually get something done. And then finally, I just so look forward to the time when we can be together again, because the joy is, you can almost taste it. And I think we just have to hold on for that moment, to do it right, not to rush it, but to get it right and really enjoy. And then one more thing, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague. Some of you on this call, many of you may be already signed up for the Hilton Gala on July 18th. Hilton Gala in April was one of the casualties of COVID. Well, we're going to do just a knockout event on July 18th, the virtual gala. A couple of hundred people have signed up for it, but there's a way to participate, and you'll find this on our website, hiltoncenter.org. There's a way to participate in the performance and sort of fun aspects of it without being a full gala patron or sponsor for a lower ticket price. It kind of mimics what we used to call the after party of the Hilton Gala. So if you're interested in having some fun on July 18th, navigate over to the Hilton site and check out the virtual gala. I will be joining it from Ocracoke Island, North Carolina, wearing a tuxedo on top, and I don't know what else, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to have some live performance and some recorded performance, and just a knockout video about our education program. It's just going to be a wonderful time. So there's a lot to look forward to, even in these times of complexity and challenge. And I want to thank everybody on this call for joining us tonight. Adrienne?
Sure. Well, first of all, I just wanted to acknowledge that I think we are still getting some questions in the comment feed, and we will be sure to respond to each of you individually to answer your questions, even though we'll be closing this portion. But, Rick, I just wanted to echo, I believe in crisis, there's opportunity. And I mentioned before how inspiring it was to see how artists are reinventing themselves and reimagining their own creative process. And we're only 3-4 months into this. So believe it or not. And already I've seen a wealth of new ideas come out of the artistic community, and I can, by the end of the year, it's just going to be really exciting to see how people have evolved, and the performing arts will never be the same again. but we will be back to being in theaters, and we will only have an expanded menu of options, I think, for engaging with our communities and addressing a lot of issues that existed, I think, in the industry before around accessibility. So it's going to be okay, and we look forward to seeing you all, and we appreciate you all. Um, and thank you. Our emails are open, so if you have thoughts or ideas, we are here to hear them. And thank you.
And thanks to Stevie Seltman and Mark Ormisher, our backstage producers tonight, for their great work in wrangling us on screen and your questions off screen. And as Adrian said, we'll be looking for a chance to respond to all the ones we couldn't get to in the live broadcast. So thank you very much. And with that, we will wish you all a good night.